the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth, the world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the Earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our show, and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I'm Nathan Shore, and accompanying me are the extraordinary movie mavens Brianna Butterworth, Sam Cole, and returning again is our friend and special guest, Anthony Ambrosino, here for some more pain. We are going to be doing our September wrap-up, our Fortune and Glory award show, where we are going to be handing out awards and superlatives for the retrospective series we just did. How is everybody doing tonight?
Good. So far, so good.
This should be fun. And what we're going to also do on this episode, after our awards, we are going to replay our review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which was released probably in June of 2023. So last year, which should be fun listening to what our opinions were on that movie. So that's what we got in store for everyone tonight.
No.
B, sounds like you weren't a fan, but not a fan. Let's get to tonight's awards. So I should have like some sort of fanfare or something for these award shows. Anyone? You know, jingle in you got one there, B. That's good. I've been really good at making some jingles for the show. I just haven't done one for awards. But here we go. September wrap up, Fortune and Glory Awards.
Ready.
You guys are ready for this? This should be a lot of fun. We have a whole bunch of awards and superlatives here. First one, this is kind of a softball one here. Best villain. We have got 5 movies. I know B, even we haven't talked about it yet. You did catch up on all 5 movies, so we're all caught up in this. Best villain in this franchise. And I think we'll go in the order that we went with last week. How's that? So B, what is your
Belloc
best villain
for me? I think he's the most interesting. I think he's just the most well-rounded. It did come close to me, but for me, between him and Mola Ram from Temple of Doom, who I think is like the freakiest. And I was really missing a villain like Mola Ram by the time we got around to the 4th and 5th movies. But I think when we did our Raiders episode, Nathan, you had talked about how much depth there was to that character and where the places it could have gone, and you could really see some backstory with the two of them. So he eked it out just a little bit for me. 2 totally different villains, though. Which is cool.
All right, good. Anthony,
I can't disagree with B. I too had a tough time between them, but I went with Mola Ram.
Nice.
He's horrifically
scary.
And
he has a cool death.
He's got a cool death. He's got a cool scene. He's just, I like the mystery behind him, and just he just is evil. And Belloc is cool. Like, he's smart, and he's a good, what do they call that for indies? Like a good counterpart,
like a heel.
Yeah, like heel. You know, just like Yeah, exactly.
He's like his
where
mirror
Balaram is
in
just
a lot of ways.
scary as hell. So I was going to go, if you went with one, I was going to go with the other.
So, oh boy,
Good picks.
it's a tough choice
Sam,
because I like Raiders the best. I do think that Belloc is like Indy's equal, and he's like more of like a mirror to Indy, but like playing with a darker, more evil team. I think, oh man, I guess I would say Mola Ram as well, just because he's so evil.
He's bad.
And he has he has so many great facial expressions, and he's got all these, like when Indy is locking Kate Capshaw up into the device when it's in the fire, and it pushes it on Mola Ram's face, and he's like, I have a disciple. He's such a bad baddie that he just wins that award. It's also those horns on his head. Like if I put it this way, if I encountered Belloc like in a bar, I could talk to him. I'd be like, look, Belloc, I know you want to kill me, but let's negotiate. Can I, there is no negotiating with Mola Ram. If I saw him, I'd be like, I'm dead. Like, can you just shoot me? Cause I don't want to burn to death because it's going to hurt. So Mola Ram scares me. Yeah.
Freaky deaky dude. All right, Nathan.
Yeah, this was hard because there are so many villains and they're so different in this franchise. So I was really close to Belloc as well, but I actually went with somebody that has not been mentioned yet. And I'm going with Elsa Schneider because I found her to be a kind of an atypical villain. She's complex and charming. And I just love that. I did not see her when I first saw this movie, that turn coming at the time. And I think that she is just really plays well in this in the entire movie. And she's such a huge part of the movie too.
I have her for another.
I really do like Elsa as an action scene. And this is wide open. This could be, because we only have one category for action chase, but let's call this action scene or chase scene, action sequence or action set piece, however you want to do this.
Yeah, there's a lot that I love here, and I love all the chase sequences. And I'm a big plane girl. Listeners of the podcast will know I love planes, and there's a lot of great plane action in this movie. But my favorite like action scene happened so early on in the franchise. It's the bar in Nepal. It's the one when we talk about Indy, and like I get ready for these episodes every week. When I'm thinking of Indiana Jones, I'm thinking of that scene. Like that's my recall. That's my memory for it. It's the introduction of the shadows, the way the shots are done, like the physical shooting is done. The blocking of that I think is brilliant. The introduction of Marion's character. There's just so much good shit that happens in that one bar. I love it.
That's I love the gunplay is so choreographed. Like there's so many movies where people just like shoot at each other and it's not well planned out. But like that scene, that's another reason why I love Raiders. Oh yeah.
I love that scene.
Yep. Anthony, what is your pick for best action?
I went back and forth a ton between the chase scenes from the end of Raiders and the end of Crusade, but I think the one that maybe I've seen the most and really is the escape with the idol from Raiders. The boulder,
Alfred Molina.
It all is just, and it's the classic scene when they show clips from Raiders. That's usually something they're showing. It was just such a memorable sequence. I don't know how early you can start it. Do we start it with the sand and swapping the idol with the sand? Do we, where does the action sequence start? But this was my hardest decision looking at the questions, but it's escaping with the idol.
There's no wrong answers here.
I 100% have to go with the truck chase in Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just think the editing is perfect. The camera angles are perfect. I think it surpasses any vehicular thing I've seen in Mad Max, which I know is like a sacrilegious statement. That is crazy. I just think it's like perfection, like absolute perfection. John Williams perfection, Spielberg perfection, second unit directing perfection, and it's just it's like perfect. So that would be me.
Point out that three of us all picked three different favorite out of 5 films action sequences, and they're all from the same movie. All
Yeah.
very different. So it just goes to show you where Raiders stands.
Yeah.
Sam,
Yeah.
No one in their right mind could pick, Crusade is a better movie than
Sam,
Raiders.
It was between that and Shia LaBeouf swinging with the monkeys in Crystal Skull. I had to make a choice. Neck and neck, yeah.
Sam, you stole my thunder because I also went with the truck chase in Raiders. And again, it's the tactile nature of it, real stunt work. It goes on for a long time too. How he is just like climbing out of windows and kicking other Nazis out, falls in front of the truck, goes underneath it, climbs back around. I mean, it's so well crafted and storyboarded. It's incredible scene. So yeah, the truck chase. This is one that B, you added earlier today, which I think is great. Best death scene or kill.
Yeah, Mola Ram.
And we're going to start with you. You think
the alligators?
Mola Ram falling down the...
Fucking scary. I mean, there's a lot of good deaths in this movie. The guy with the fire. I don't know. There's a lot. I'm rethinking my answer a little bit, but you don't see it on screen. I love the propeller death in Raiders, but you don't... For me, I guess Mola Ram beats it out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what do you got?
There are just so many. my favorite. There's so many that I can consider as favorites.
So much.
I'm going to go with this one just because it's just fun and you've not really seen anything like it before. But I'm going to go with the swordsman in the basket chase scene when Indy pulls out the gun and shoots him. I know it's not the most goriest death, the most satisfying in other ways, but it was such a clever and fun moment that it's when I think back, I always remember that moment in that scene. So I'm going to go with that.
I have to.
Great.
Best death.
Sam,
I have to go with the swordsman in Raiders as well, just because the first time I saw it, it's shockingly hilarious. The guy does all the swinging and all these moves, and Harrison Ford at point blank range just kills him in cold blood. And he's just like, man, F this dude. I'm exhausted. And it was it's just so apparently like on the nose awesome. I can't
avoid it.
Unexpected, yes. Not expected at all. Yeah.
And the great callback in Temple of Doom when he goes for the gun and it's not there with the two swords.
It's not there.
It's like, not this time, Indy.
Yeah.
And Steven would be like, this is great because you think he's going to do it again, but he can't.
There are so many options I could list off, and there's probably like 5 honorable mentions I want to bring up, but there's one death from this franchise that gave me nightmares for most of my childhood. And that is at the end of Raiders, Tot's melting face. And it was nightmare fodder for until I probably saw Temple of Doom, which I didn't find honestly that scary at the time. I mean, kind of, but like it made me, it was a kid's, it was a more kid-friendly version, I thought, for me. But the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I was having such a great time with, and I remember seeing it in the theater, having the time of my life.
Some Cronenberg shit.
When that face started melting, I lost my shit. And I remember I was with my dad, and I was traumatized from that. And I didn't watch Raiders of the Lost Ark probably again until after Temple of Doom. I saw that in the theater where I had the courage to go back and see Raiders of the Lost Ark on.
I'd already told the story when we were doing Raiders, but I got in trouble as a little kid because in kindergarten I was so enamored with the Nazi face melting that in story hour when we were supposed to draw pictures, I was drawing pictures of like faces melting and I was like storyboarding the scenes. They had a parent-teacher conference for me and they were like, is there, domestic violence in your home? We're really concerned about your son because he's drawing these horrific things. And my dad just laughed. He's like, no, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. He just loves the movie.
So this one here, I'm calling the Scene Stealer Award. So it's basically a character or a scene where somebody just like takes the scene into, steals the scene, basically. Do with it as you may.
Me? Short Round. I don't think he gets enough love. We haven't talked about him enough. Short Round.
Short Round. Okay.
I thought he was so charming in all his scenes with Indy. He was great.
Mm-hmm. So wait, so scene stealer is definitely, it's a character. It's a character stealing a scene is what you're saying. I was kind of, okay. Okay.
Yes, that's right. How we've traditionally done it. Yeah.
Short Round was my answer, but since Short Round's been taken, I'm going to go with Belloc. I think being Indy's equal, whenever he shows up on screen, you are unsure of what he's going to say or do. He just always seems to get the drop on Indy. He always comes away as the victor up until the very end. But his just slug satisfaction of besting Indy at every turn makes him second to Short Round for me.
Good stuff. All right.
It's a challenge, but I would have to go with and I'm really embarrassed because not only do I not know the actor's name off the top of my head, but the character's name. It's the Nazi in Raiders of the Lost Ark with the glasses whose face melts, who gets the thing in General Todd. General Todd. Every time he's on screen, I find him really scary and amusing. And I love the moment in Raiders when they're all standing around the ark and they open it and it looks like there's just sand inside and he's just standing there going like, he's like, we wasted all the time. Or when he shows up at the bar in Nepal, his presence, I find him scary and amusing because he's so evil, but he's delightfully evil. So for me, he's definitely a scene stealer.
Great pick.
Every time he shows up in Raiders, I pay attention.
Yes. This next award is the Wingman or Wingwoman Award.
Did you do yours?
Who's your pick?
An award that we give out to somebody that we. Oh, I missed myself. You know why? Because I have the same pick as you, B. I also went with Short Round. Yeah, and I can honestly say if it weren't for the dynamic in chemistry between Indy and Short Round, I think Temple of Doom would be a much worse movie. Every time Short Round is on screen, he just adds energy and relatability that Willie Scott, I feel, was intended to deliver, and he just adds the emotional depth to key moments, such as when he begs Indy to wake up from the brainwashing. It makes me really wish there was more.
The card cheating,
more expanded.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, so, we'll get you over to the dark side on Willie Scott.
Yeah.
If not for Short Round, who would your pick have been, Nathan?
Oh, see, this was really hard. It might have been Belloc because I wanted so much more. I wanted Belloc. You weren't there for this episode, I think, but I wish Belloc survived Raiders and he was somebody that returned in this franchise and possibly becomes an ally or somebody that comes in and out of Indiana Jones' life, and you never know whose side he's on. And he's just kind of like always out there playing games with him. He would have been, I'm guessing it's never been mentioned. I'm guessing they regret that he died in this movie and they could have used him.
If he could have shown up in Dial of Destiny or something like that and been the foil out of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. I wish he had a longer legacy in this movie. He would have been so good as a reoccurring villain or so, like I said, he would have been so good as somebody who did come around as an ally to Indy as well, because he was not far off.
How amazing would it have been is Dial of Destiny, Indy goes back in time, and who's already there is Belloc.
But this
and they've got to work
like
together to get out.
Another point to Raiders for like how grounded in reality the characters were, though.
Yeah. Okay, so back in track here. Wingman, Wingwoman Award. Now, this is somebody who we would want to take on as our wingman on a date. basically.
This was the easiest one for me. Sala.
So.
It's the best, man. It's okay, Anthony. We can have the same answers.
Yeah.
It's the right answer.
I love it. No, I love that we have the same answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's my favorite.
It's solid. He's got the connections. He's got the anecdotes to talk and make you look good. He's called ahead to the restaurant and they've got a table ready for you. He's got everything under control. Sala is the perfect wingman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's breaking the ice, telling stories. And plus, and he's so good as a karaoke partner too.
Yeah, great.
The consummate guest. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Are you locking step with us, Sam?
Marcus
or you got somebody
Brody,
else?
just because in Last Crusade, he's so goofy and so funny that he'd be a good conversationalist, and I think he would make me look really, really good by comparison to the way you're like, oh, Sam is such a charming fellow, ancient Greece, blah 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 blah.
Speaks 12 languages.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd have to go with Marcus. Yeah, but Sala is the man.
My second choice was Malaram.
My second choice was the alligator.
Nice.
All right. Next,
who's yours?
Next category. This is kind of a superlative.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Sala. Yeah. Yep. Best
This was hard.
Fedora moment.
Anytime the Fedora magically returns, I'm happy. But so for this one, I just went with the origin story of the Fedora, when it's given to him, because I really like the preamble in Last Crusade. The passing of the hat.
So the passing of the hat to
and it was just nice to see River Phoenix
in the beginning of Crusade. Okay. All right, cool. Anthony, what do you got?
That's a good answer, B.
Hey,
wasn't
thanks.
on my radar. Oh God. I think it's because can I go different? Can I jump out of place? Can I go last? All right.
Pass.
I want to think a little more.
Yeah, you can.
Since I was just thrown into this episode.
You were.
There's one that for me, the one that comes into my mind immediately, because it's just heartfelt and perfect. It's in Last Crusade, after Indy has fallen off the cliff and he's sitting there exhausted in the sand, and Sean Connery is like, come on, we must keep going, we're so near the end, and his hat just rolls into frame out of nowhere and he just puts it back on. I loved that moment in the theater. I find it so endearing, and I just thought it was perfect. And just not too cheesy. It's just, of course, his hat just magically reappears. I just thought that was great. So that'd be the one I would pick.
And Sam, I have exactly the same moment as you. It's that emotional moment. It's like God is flicking it back in his direction because he's got all the luck on his side. So
it's the tonality, because it's not right like, oh, ho, ho, ho. It's kind of it's kind of endearing, and it's like emotional.
It's a little mystical.
Yeah, it's just the hat comes back and you're like, oh, go for it, Andy. Like it's great.
All right, we're circling back to you, Anthony.
Let me guess. The atomic ants make the hat roll up the hill, and he puts it on his head, right?
I can't keep the Shia. I guess I'm going to go with this unexpectedly, but the Shia moment where Shia goes, the hat rolls back in, and Shia goes to pick it up, put it on, and Indy grabs it. Not so much for just that scene or that moment, but for the message to all of us that there will never, no one's ever be another Indiana Jones, or not like he played it. And just that message of, no, you thought we were passing the torch to Shia here. We're not. There is no other Indiana Jones. I think for the symbolism of that shot, that is the one that stands out to me, because it's basically a message to the audience. Not so fast.
R.I.P. Mutt.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I like that decision.
That's true.
All right. Okay. Next one. Best
There's
sidekick.
some very good options here. but I went with Henry Jones Sr., Sean Connery.
Henry Jones Sr. Okay.
I think it's the strongest core of all the movies, but I also just like him as a very competent everyman. And I like that Indiana Jones has a motivation outside of himself and his own moral compass on top of it. So for me, that gives it another layer of stakes.
Good.
So,
Anthony,
B is correct that the best practical one is Henry Jones. I'm going just with Short Round because he's the most fun.
He's so fun.
And it was very entertaining watching the two of them together. So for practical reasons, Henry Jones. For entertainment reasons, Short Round.
Hard agree.
I've got to go with Short Round, and I agree with both you guys. For me, for me personally, it was watching Temple of Doom as a kid and seeing another kid in the movie.
I never thought of that. You had like someone to relate to in the movie.
Exactly. And he was like older than me, and I looked up to him and I thought he was the coolest. And so as soon as he shows up and he's driving that car, I was just like, man, I love this kid. And so he was like a hero to me as a wee one.
That's cool.
There's a whole, actually the book is probably here somewhere, but there's a whole like Disney strategy about things like that. Oh yeah, this book, Money and Power, The Big Picture, Money and Power in Hollywood. And they talk about the Disney, it's called the Midas formula, where you have a child as a main character against adults. And it's like box office gold. And it talks all about that here. But Short Round, not the main character, but you know, how you connected with him and how you felt that kinship and all that. But it's a whole thing called the Midas formula for characters like that.
That's interesting.
That's awesome. And Nathan, please take what I say with a grain of salt because I'm totally joking here. I'm just ribbing you, but I'm going to guess your favorite sidekick is Willie Scott. Am I right?
100%. No, actually, I also went with Short Round for all the reasons that have been mentioned here. And I love your point that he was so relatable because, watching this as a 10-year-old, there was my surrogate right there. I didn't relate to Willie. I related to Short Round in that world. So that's such a great point to bring up, Sam. So yes, Short Round. Absolutely. This should be a fun one. What artifact would you keep from this franchise?
I'm going back to
the question first before you answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this the real bona fide artifact with all its mystical powers, or is this something like how I have my little trinkets that I would want?
Not your movie.
Okay.
No, not your movie prop. The real thing.
Oh, that might change my.
Let's do both.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. We don't put much thought in. Let's do. Okay, fine. We'll do both. I don't know. This is all for fun. So I never really, my answer is so like tongue in cheek. So I never really put much thought into it.
I would want
my answer's entertainment value. So. Mine is.
I'm going back to that first temple run we see with the idol. The first thing he takes. I love that.
The fertility god.
If not just because it will bring me Alfred Molina.
As the real artifact or as the movie prop you'd like to have in your house?
As the movie prop, I just thought it looked super cool. And it was one of the things, and I want to go into this after. I know we're trying to keep it short tonight, but I had made a list of what I thought Indiana Jones was before I watched any of the movies because I never had any spoilers for it. And I sort of thought there was like gold. And so just kind of, again, is the thing in my mind. If I had to pick the real thing, could an artifact just be something of Indy's? Because I wouldn't hate the hat. Yeah.
Okay.
Be fun not to lose a hat for once,
I have the two answers.
The two answers. You want.
So as far as movie prop goes, as far as size, the ark would be too big. The cup is too plain. I would like the fertility idol as well, which I'll be getting soon as the movie prop. And as the real life like thing to own that works, it would be this.
Yeah.
I would.
But would you be trapped in there, or would you be okay with the defunct?
No, I just sit home and I just drink it and it would work.
Just crunk juice. Yeah. Word.
Yeah. Kool-Aid. Yeah.
For the real thing, I would
Sam?
100% go after the Grail, because what I would do is I would go and I would drink from it in the temple in Last Crusade. And though it's broken beyond the seal, if I could somehow get it off that cliff, and if I could have everlasting life while I was in there, what I would do is I would go in there for like 3 years, bring food and not age, write all the scripts I could, get ahead on everything career-wise, and just drink and drink and drink from it. Then I would go out, age a little bit, go back in, drink more of it. I would do whatever I could to keep myself alive as long as possible, because I don't like being just a human. If there was a way to become a god, I would go for it. Not a god or like a religious deity, just more powerful than, immortal and, we got to eat and like it just to be a human. It's like, it's okay.
Demigod.
But I would also go, I would like for the props, I just like the stones from Temple of Doom with the 3 lines across them. I just like the way they look. And I know you have that, Anthony, and it's just something cool that I would love to have on my shelf. And I don't dislike being human. I'm grateful to be there. If the universe is listening to this, please allow me to continue and stay on this planet. I'm just saying, if there's a way to elongate life, I'm all for it, because I want to see what happens in the universe through the space-time continuum.
When's your birthday, Sam? Maybe we can get you a stone.
April 13th. They will be found. Sorry.
For an artifact, I don't know what I'm going to do about a movie prop, but for artifact, I think I'll take the alien crystal skull. For a couple reasons, being made of pure crystal, it probably has the highest worth. I don't know, on the market. It would make a great centerpiece at dinner parties. Although I'm fully aware that I'd have to eat plastic utensils, but that's okay. There's the psychic properties it possesses. I'd have the ability to communicate telepathically and control minds. So I think that's worth more than the time to write scripts. So I could get anything greenlit that I want. Nothing could go wrong with this at all. And if all that fails, I could just hollow it out and then bottle vodka in it and sell it at a premium price, just like Dan.
For me, it's not just scripts. It's trying to live longer. The script is just an example of like taking advantage of time. I just want elongated life. But I hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, man. I don't know about a prop. I'll take Indy's hat, although I don't think I can rock it though. I think I've tried putting a fedora on, and I look goofy.
Sucks for you. I look great.
Sure, I'll take the fedora and a parade around my house wearing just the hat.
Perfect. Just that. Your Monty Python, your full Monty moment.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. All right. We have one left here.
Oh, no. You have to rephrase this question. I'm on the record.
It's the Fallout Shelter Award. What character would you want to bring into our bunker to save to bring into the after times? And this is not some scandal.
You didn't say to repopulate the Earth.
Supposed to be, to repopulate the Earth, but just because they should be.
I took a peek at B's answer earlier. I know she's going with short round on this one.
I'm Harrison Ford, man. I want to watch these movies with Harrison Ford. If he's in our movie vault, like, fuck it. Come watch some movies with Harrison Ford.
All right, Dr. Jones.
Oh,
Short round.
Anthony.
Yeah, no. There's on my side of the fence. There's no other answer. It's Dr. Elsa Schneider.
General Tot.
Or Bella.
Let a Nazi into our vault.
I would, yeah, I was going to say Elsa Schneider as well, but Kate Capshaw was a close second.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm taking the honest route here. I'm going with Indiana Jones. It's got the knowledge of history and archaeology and survival skills. He offers leadership and problem solving and his adaptability. And after we leave the bunker, he'll be great at teaching future generations about the before times and go on archaeological digs, finding artifacts.
I think you cleaned up your answer because the question clearly stated, who would you repopulate the earth with? Mm-hmm. And I don't know how the chemistry of that and the biology would work for you and him in the bunker.
I'm just saying we need him for the future.
I'm on the record of wanting this question stricken from any future episodes.
Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. And finally, the most important of them all. Rank these 5 films.
Sure.
B.
From best to worst, worst to best, fifth to first. All right, my number 1 is Raiders.
Best to worst. Why not?
Not shocking. Then Crusade. Then Temple, Crystal Skull, Dial of Destiny.
Raiders.
Okay. Anthony.
Crusade. Temple, Dial, Crystal Skull.
I think that's going to be most of you.
I too, 1 Raiders, 2 Crusade, 3 Temple, 4 Dial, and 5 Crystal Skull.
Interesting.
Sorry.
Da, 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 da.
Okay, I know everyone's waiting for me. And I will admit, I have changed my answers a few times today. And I'm going to ruffle from some feathers here. Probably not.
I didn't even wear my feathers.
Like I said in our Last Crusade episode, I think that Last Crusade is now my favorite.
But you're not saying it's the best. You're saying it's your favorite.
Exactly. Raiders is still number 1. Raiders is still number 1. Crusade, but this is like 1A and 1B, which I think a lot of people probably feel. So if I could do both at number 1, I would. I cannot decide, but I'm going to keep Raiders just because it's so iconic. But there's so much greatness about Crusade. So that's 1 and 2. Number 3 might surprise some people, hearing especially how much you disliked this movie.
I'm ready to fight.
But
I'm ready to fight so hard.
Third favorite.
Over Temple.
I'm ready.
Is my third favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Wow.
Okay. My 4th.
My feathers are ruffled. You were right.
Movie.
Wow, now my feathers are ruffled.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
This is crazy.
And 5th, and this is really like 4A and 4B in a lot of ways.
I'm not even mad that you hated Temple. I'm mad that you like Dial that much.
I really did not mind Dial at all. I think Dial is so much better than Crystal Skull. I mean, I think the top two are great.
You
I
think the movie where they
are
stick
not
the iconic figure that they put Indiana Jones in a shitty video game for the first 20 fucking minutes isn't disrespectful?
I loved the de-aging
Except
of it.
the
Actually.
voice.
I did not mind it at all. I felt like I was watching the
I don't
missing.
even care.
I felt like I was missing the Indiana Jones movie.
I don't even
that
care if
made
it's done
in
well. It still
1994.
doesn't look good. Like, it looks good for what it is, but that doesn't mean that it looks good. He's laggy behind everything. It's sluggish. And again, it takes your main fucking character and turns him into a video game for the first 20 minutes. That's crazy.
Wholeheartedly agree with you, B. I just wanted to, I'm on your page. Yeah.
Yes,
you listened to our episode,
appalled.
B, that you said earlier today. So that's how I feel. I think that Crystal Skull has some really cool ideas in it. And
bad execution, cool ideas.
There's some stuff I really dislike about your mom. Watching it now, where I just have no interest in going back there again. And the problem I have with Dial of Destiny is that
the problem I have with Dial of Destiny is that it treats me like an idiot that's only in it for my money, and then it's a schlocky cash grab that looks like plastic, and it's offensive enough to be boring.
How do you really
first boring Indiana Jones movie?
I agree with you, and I'm sure I was kind of overly merciful to Dial in my first review because I just seen it, but I agree with what you're saying, and if it's any consolation. Dial of Destiny did poorly in the worldwide box office, and the franchise
it is a consolation.
ended with a whimper. So
1 star.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you have our fortune and glory.
I like that you take big swings, Nathan. I like that about you.
And take it as you will. This segment went very long. So I think what we might do is let's not worry about our what we've been watching for the last month, because that's could go on long. I'd like to mention, let's transition to anything that we're looking forward to this month, and then just kind of tease what we're going to be going into in our next retrospective series. But maybe just one or two things that we are looking forward to in the month of October. B, any films this upcoming month that you have on your radar?
For sure. Every late September into October, I do. Do you guys know the Hooptober challenge?
No.
So it's a thing on Letterboxd that one of the users started like 11 years ago, and it's 31 movies in the month of October, and it's to honor Tobe Hooper. And so there's all these different categories that you have to hit in the genre of horror. And it's gotten me, I love horror, but I was very firmly in like 80s horror and Giallo. Those were the two horror things I knew. So it's gotten me to broaden my horizons a lot. And this month we have to do 6 countries, 8 decades. We have to do 3 films from New World Pictures. We've got to do all kinds of fun stuff, like 4 Italian films, some Indian films. I've fallen in love with Indian horror. So I'm excited to do that challenge. Keep up with it.
That's great. I'm looking at it right now. There are a lot of these I have not seen, but there are some cool ones here. I saw The Devil is great. I don't know if you saw that one already, but I see that's on the list.
Yeah, you can pick your own in those categories too. You don't have to watch whatever anyone else is watching, which is fun.
Speaking of horror movies, they're one of the movies that I'm looking forward to. I'm not the biggest horror guy, and I don't watch every horror movie that comes out. But what I can say is that when I saw Smile back in 2022, it scared the bejesus out of me, and I thought it was one of the more effective and maybe I guess original, but not really. But it's doing what other films in the genre have already done, but it's so good at creating an eerie atmosphere, an easy feeling. But Smile 2 is coming out on this month, and it's bringing back the same writer director, Parker Finn, and this time the central protagonist is a pop singer who begins to experience the same horrors. I'm guessing it's going to lean into all the pressures of celebrity culture, which I think will be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that this month. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. Sam, anything that is on your radar? Sorry, you're in the middle of, I didn't see what you're doing. Sam is having a sip of water. I caught him off
I
guard.
think, I'm sure there is, to be honest, there's a lot of holiday fare that I'm looking forward to. I don't really know that much about October. I will say, I guess Joker 2, Joker
Folie à Deux.
Folie à Deux.
Folie
I
à
mean,
Deux.
it'd be interesting.
Folie à Deux.
Even though it's not a movie, I think there is at least 1 or 2 remaining episodes of Rings of Power coming out in October. And I've been enjoying that. And there is a ton of hate towards that show where I just kind of just try to, I understand its shortcomings, but I think what they're doing is impressive.
The season's so much better.
It's so much better. And I kind of like, maybe just because there's just a lot more to see and to do, but I kind of like this show maybe a little bit better than the Hobbit films in some ways, because I feel like Lord of the Rings is on top. This show goes into the lore. I don't think the Hobbit movies are bad, but as someone who just pores over those maps and that world and just really gets into it, I just even derive pleasure when they go to places that I've read about but never seen. And I see them in you talk about like CGI and visual effects. I think the show is stunningly incredible looking. I mean, on my like television in filmmaker mode, it just blows me away. I understand the issues and some of the characterization, but I'm just on board for that journey. So I would say that. And I kind of feel like I didn't really do much research for October. I'm sure there's something coming out that I know about. There's more films that I'm interested, but they're like November and December releases. So I'm not really well informed on October. Yeah, Gladiator 2. There's just more. I feel like it's going to get denser, but I feel like there's going to be a really good sleeper in October as well. So I'm a little off the mark, but that's just kind of where I'm at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. I got one other thing I might mention, but Anthony, is there anything you want to
streaming and
mention?
One in the theaters, but if box office and reaction of people coming out, I definitely want to go see The Substance.
Yeah.
Seems to be everyone's talking about it, and it's crazy, it's insane, it's this and that. So I don't know anything about it. I try and know as little about things before I go and see them. I find it much better. I don't want to know titles if I don't have to, but that's that. And then on Netflix, I've been really enjoying a show called What's Next? The Future with Bill Gates. It talks a lot about technology in the future and AI and different things like that. And that's a very exciting series. And then someone that loved WWF professional wrestling from the age of 6 to the age of 16. There's a documentary called Mr. McMahon coming out on Netflix about Vince McMahon and the WWF / WWE. So those 3 things are highlights for me in September.
Anthony, did you like the Iron Claw? Did you see that one?
I love the Iron Claw, but
I loved it so much.
It really bothered me that they left one of the brothers out.
Left out one of the brothers.
Not as good as No Holds Barred.
Close.
Not as good as No Holds Barred.
I did recently watch No Holds Barred with my son, so.
We're just rewatching the Rock and Sock Connection now. No, I cried at Iron Claw. It was great.
It was very powerful and sad, but I don't know how you make a movie and leave
out a brother
out of it. Yeah, like I don't know. Weird.
I know.
I am hoping to get tickets to Boston Symphony Orchestra is doing a showing of Nosferatu with a live organ. So I'm hoping to get tickets to that, get in the mood for the new Eggers movie. We'll see.
Does that come out in October?
Yeah.
I know. I think it's November.
I was going to say, because I definitely want to see that. Yeah.
November.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll mention just one, I think, other thing I was gonna what's the other thing here? Honora is the new Sean Baker movie coming out October 18th. I know nothing about it though. All I know is that Sean Baker is the director of it, and so I am already all in, and that's all I want to know. the other thing is Saturday Night is directed by Jason Reitman. And I do know a little bit about this. It's based on the true story of what happened in the 90 minutes prior to October 11th, 1975 debut of Saturday Night Live. I've been really hot and cold with Jason Reitman over the past decade. I think the last film I really liked was Tully, which was, I think,
Shirley
2018.
Theron.
I thought was really good. Yeah, yes. But this one has me excited because he's finally passed both the Ghostbusters films, neither of which I was all that keen on. I don't think they were really movies in his wheelhouse. I think those should have been somebody else that did those. But here he's back to his comedy roots, and I've heard mixed things about this as far as it's coming out of Telluride, but I'm holding out hope that, especially when I look at there's a really great young cast that's in this, that it's going to be an exciting film. So this is something I'm looking forward to this upcoming month, and that's October 11th that comes out. So yeah. So a couple things that we are all looking forward to in the month of October, and hopefully this is something that at the end of this month we will give some thoughts on that we've caught up on. So there you go. So coming up next week, we are going to begin our next retrospective series, Gothic Horror. So this was something we all decided on. This will be kind of fun. We have 3 films in this retrospective. We're going to be doing Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street from Tim Burton. And then we're doing Angel Heart, the 1987 film from Alan Parker. And then finally wrapping it up with Crimson Peak from Guillermo del Toro. So this
and in every one of those movies, one of us hasn't seen them, which will be fun.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Angel Heart, I've seen all these, but I haven't seen Angel Heart since 2002. So it's been like 22 years.
Were you saying you haven't seen Sweeney Todd, right?
Should be a lot of fun. So, okay.
Yeah.
I have never seen Sweeney Todd. I haven't seen, as I mentioned last week when I was talking about Beetlejuice, it's the first Tim Burton movie I've seen, I think,
my favorite
since
Tim Burton.
Big Fish.
Next to Pee-wee.
Yeah. So it's been, I have a lot of Tim Burton to catch up on. So this will be nice. So, okay. I think that's it. And all right,
enjoy Dial of Destiny.
Thank you again, Anthony.
Great job. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Why don't we get to our main review, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I miss the desert. I miss the sea. And I miss waking up every morning, wondering what wonderful adventure the new day will bring to us. Those days have come and gone. Perhaps not. I don't believe in magic. But a few times in my life, I've seen things I can't explain. And I've come to believe it's not so much what you believe. It's how hard you believe it.
Ellie, I miss you like singing in our shows. You used to do that more.
Where? I did. I don't know why I don't do it. I used to dance a lot too. I just post them. Just like singing and dancing like an idiot. My singing is horrible. But in my mind, I think I'm a great singer.
Right. Well, we just heard a clip from the trailer of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which came out a couple weeks ago. And, it got middling reviews, I guess you could say. Audiences, I think, liked it. But let's find out what we thought of the 5th installment of the Indiana Jones films. This one was not directed by Steven Spielberg. But let's hold on here. Here is
Oh, I
my
forget who directed this one.
James
James Mangold directed.
Mangold.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will be so I'd like to hear what everyone thought about his directing, and did he channel Steven Spielberg in this film? That'll be interesting to hear. So anyways, who would like to begin with their thoughts on Dial of Destiny?
Did he channel Steven Spielberg? I hope not. I like for him to be individually outside Spielberg.
Well, there's that, but
He certainly was.
I think there was a lot of pressure on him to like capture Steven Spielberg's look and vibe of the past films. So, but we'll get to that. Let's begin. Who would like Ellie? Jump in. I'm throwing you in.
Well, I heard that a lot of people didn't like it, that critics didn't like it, and I really don't really care what critics think, say, or do, because I don't go by their advice. I do my own thing. I watch the film, and if it hits me in a certain way, I'm gonna say that I loved it, and it hit me in a certain way, so I loved it. I loved the adventure and the action. I especially, oh no, I don't want to say it here. I'm going to say it in the other side. Well, I loved, I think Harrison Ford is a handsome old man. Okay. And yeah, he tickled my feather. Is that how you say it? I'm sorry. Is that how you say it? I don't know. I'm not good with expressions in English. Apparently not, because Nathan is like over there.
That got Nathan. By the way, random comment. I'm actually really a nice guy, and if you watch previous podcasts, you won't see evil Sam. So I apologize. My week was truly, truly terrible, but I won't go into it. That's why I can't. Projecting is wrong, and any human that projects their own emotions needs to not do that. So I'm going to stop too. Yeah. And if you're sad or if you're unhappy, don't burden your friends. Pay the money for a therapist, because no one wants to listen to you.
Or get a journal and write.
Shell out the dough and go, oh, I'm sad.
In any case, I loved Harrison Ford. I think it's really cool to see him some moves at his age. Enjoy seeing.
You think that was him?
Okay, not the big moves, obviously, but the little moves that he can do, because he moves very slowly now. But oh god, the man is just hot. Anyway, but I think for me, it gave me nostalgic vibes from when I first saw the movie in the 80s, the very first movie, which I love. And sitting in that cinema watching the beginning of the movie. And I'm not going to say what. I don't know if I can say what the beginning looks like, but just the beginning, it just brought me back to like, I told Carlos, I was like, I feel like I'm back in the 80s. Like, I feel like I'm watching this and I'm in whatever. When did that movie come out?
1981 was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I'm back at that cinema in 1981, and I could just transported myself there, and I'm watching Indiana Jones for the first time, and it was just really cool to have those vibes inside. I really loved it. Yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Sam, what do you say?
So I'll start with the positive. I liked Harrison Ford a lot. I thought that he said at some point in an interview that he was interested in going a little deeper into Indy's character, and he wanted to kind of analyze it, and he felt that he had one more film in him. I definitely agree with that. I thought his performance was great. I will say I found it to be a slight improvement on Crystal Skull, because I thought the screenplay was flowier. I felt that even though the action scenes and set pieces kind of underwhelmed me, and I'll get to that, I thought the way in which they began, in which Harrison and Indy, and the manner in which the plot moved forward was very smooth. I felt that Crystal Skull has a lot of really like chunky expository start and stop dialogue, and the pace of that movie is kind of I thought this movie was flowier than Crystal Skull. I will say, though, personally, I really, really felt the absence of Steven Spielberg's direction. And I think that James Mangold was trying, and I think he's an excellent director with Ford versus Ferrari and Logan and a lot of other movies. This film, I felt like he was sweating bullets to just kind of do a kind of competent job. And everyone, this is not a spoiler, but everyone talks about the de-aged opening scene on the train. I thought that was okay, but for me, Steven Spielberg has such an operatic ballet kind of musical sense of action. Whereas if you look back to something like Last Crusade, where there's the revolving fireplace when they're spinning around and they go into the Nazi room and they turn around, then the door goes halfway. There's all this amazing choreography in these wide shots. And I felt that Spielberg touch towards the action was not in this film, even though the action was not bad. To me, it just felt more like kind of standard big blockbuster, solid, good action. So my review is positive, but I was not. I did not. I wanted to feel more of that nostalgic spark that Ellie that you felt, and I'm glad you felt that, because I wanted to feel that. I just didn't quite. When it showed the title screen and it said Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and it's just like this dark room of like Nazi treasures, it just seemed like such a flat kind of beginning. And they didn't do the Paramount Mountain switching into something, so which is not a big deal. But
it was weird with Disney opening it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just a little weird, and I saw it on an IMAX in Providence Place, and it honestly seemed some scenes felt a little like blurry and dark to me, but that might have been the projection. So I would give it a B. I liked Harrison, and I was glad to see him in one last movie, but there's something a little bit lackluster about this film, even though I did see not all of it, but I did see like the whole second half of Crystal Skull like the other night, and I was watching it, and it had all the Spielberg shots. I thought, wait a minute, have I given this movie a bad rap? Then the bad CGI comes in, and Shia LaBeouf and the monkeys and the ants, and I was like, no, I remember this. This is not that great, in my opinion. Yeah. I thought the fifth one was an improvement. So that's kind of where I stand in general, like cautiously happy, but not blown away. I got to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think, Sam, I think for me, it's because I go to the movies and I don't walk in there thinking about what to expect. I wait to be surprised. So I have no expectations of any film. I just go in there to see if I like it. And if I don't like it, it's like, boo. But then
I'm the same exact way. And so me talking about this was actually the way it just felt. Just sitting there and watching it, no expectations. Everything of how I reviewed the movie, that's just how I organically felt with one viewing, watching it without thinking too much.
Yeah.
That stuff just absorbs like shot choices and angles. Like it hits me hard every single time. That's why I like directing so much.
Because you're in love with Steven Spielberg, face it.
Well, his filmmaking is just there's nothing I've seen like it, where he uses his camera in a way that no other director has ever done, and it's so subtle and amazing. And I can put a finger on it, but it would like take a book to write about it, and like people do that, like people have written books about Spielberg, but he just has this. I also miss, I know being a stuntman or a stuntwoman is very dangerous, but I miss these shots where there's a shot in Last Crusade where if you look at my arm, the tank is in the foreground like this. Indy is literally riding up on a hill behind the tank, and in a wide shot, the stuntman jumps off the horse and lands on the tank, and you see it in this big shot. So there's this kind of Spielberg structure where you just see things happen before your eyes and you go, wow, that was amazing. This movie, you can
probably
feel
cut to death.
You can feel cut tricks. Like, when Indy like jumps from one tuk-tuk to another tuk-tuk, and he switches vehicles and it goes by so quick. You're like, was that a stunt? Was that CGI? I can't tell what I was looking at there. And that is not the case, especially with the first three. There are spectacular stunts in those original movies that are amazing even today. And I miss practical stuff. In a positive note, the Dial of Destiny is not a CGI fest. It just has a look of like a standard modern blockbuster. And it's a weird, I don't know. That's me.
So to prepare for this film, and I think I mentioned this in the last episode, I did watch the previous 4 films because that's what I do. And I actually rewatched Crystal Skull for the first time since seeing it in the theater. Because I felt like I forgot almost everything about that film. I never went back to revisit it since seeing it in the theater in 2008. And this is not a Crystal Skull review podcast, but I will say that at the time, I felt like I came out of that relatively positive. And I felt like, well, okay, I got the indie experience that I have been missing for like 19 years or whatever it was. And in hindsight, I don't think it's as good as I remembered it. And as you said, there's some really bad CGI in that. Those monkeys are terrible, and Shia LaBeouf like swinging from vines, and like there's some geography that just doesn't make any sense with that scene. And yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but it is not. But spoiler for later, it is not the worst Indiana Jones movie.
Dude, I didn't see.
We'll get to that later.
I only saw one, and that's it. And the one that this year came out. That's all I've seen.
You've only seen 2 of the movies?
I only saw the first one and the last one, and not the in betweens.
All right, we're going to stop you right there. Anyway.
Okay, I did see 2.
Anyways, you just threw off my whole game, Ellie.
I'm sorry.
I am sure that I know, just because I'm a telepathic, by worst indie, you probably are going to put Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom is my second to first favorite. I love that film, and I can't wait to defend it because it's a good movie.
Anyways,
I know. I just wanted to see your face, Nathan.
And the guys on if you Google Red Letter Media, YouTube, watch their review of Temple of Doom. They agree with me. They've got millions of views. So,
actually do. Anyways, but so I went to see Dial of Destiny, and what was the most important thing to see this movie is that I took my dad, because one of my I think my first theatrical experience that I can remember is seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark with my dad. I know it's not the first movie I saw with my dad, because I think the first movie I saw with my dad was Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh, wow.
And I think I made him leave. I think we left in the middle of the movie because the movie was so boring, because I was young and like, Dad, this is not Star Wars. This is so boring. I want to go home. So I think we left in the middle of the movie. So I don't think we finished the movie, because I was like crying in the theater.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture is slow.
Wait, you walked out of the movie because you thought it was boring?
Listen, I was probably...
Star Trek: The Motion Picture has a 10-minute docking sequence where it's like Kirk is approaching, and he's like looking out the window, then it cuts, he's getting closer to the ship, back to his face, and then we fly around the ship. Nope, that's not the end. 5 more minutes until they get to the hatch.
When you're like 4 years old... or whatever, however old I was, and you are the biggest Star Wars fan, and you're like, yeah, take me to see Star Trek. It's got Star in it. And of course, I probably had been somewhat familiar with the TV show, which was 10 times more exciting than the movie. All right.
I'll say a quick comment. That movie was hugely expensive. Like that was a $40 million movie. That cost more than Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like 5 years later. And there's so much like budget into the set, but the movie is like airless. Anyway, sorry to but yeah. So
this is why I'm saying that Raiders of the Lost Ark is probably the first movie that we completed in the theater. And what I also remember from that experience, and my dad took me to see this, is that movie also scared the hell out of me, because if everyone remembers, the final scene in that is everyone's face melts at the end of the spoiler alert on a 42-year-old movie. But that gave me nightmares because nobody expected that to happen.
You know what's crazy? I love that scene so much. When I was a kid, I saw it when I was a kid in kindergarten. I drew the face melting scene for my like kindergarten class picture. The teacher saw it. It was every other student was like pictures of hearts and bunnies. They saw mine. It's a bunch of Nazis with their face melting. I drew it with crayons. And they had a parent teacher conference. They're like, we're worried about your son is a little like, and my dad was like, no, he just loves Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's just imitating the movie.
But I don't know, but still, I think that also solidified in me that experience because it was such a, you know what? I'm a big fan of the movie Inside Out, where you make these core memories, you know, how that, and that is a core memory of mine, seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark with my father in a movie theater in, I think, Madison, Connecticut, when I was 7 years old or so, or 6 years old. I don't remember. And that I've remembered my entire life, him taking me probably to my first real movie or so where I made it the whole time. I think I saw Star Wars also, probably in the movie theater. I just don't really remember. But I remember this. It's the first time I remember it. So this is a really special thing for me. And I've seen every single Indiana Jones movie at the theater with my dad since then. And I know that this is the last Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford. So I knew that I had to take him. And I took him. This is the first time where I took him to the movies. So this was a very emotional experience because my dad also is 78 years old. And probably is, I may never take him to see another Indiana Jones movie again, you know? So as I'm watching this with him, it was a very, very emotional time. And when this movie started, I don't think this is spoiling anything, but you know, the beginning of this movie is a de-aged Harrison Ford. And what I will say is I didn't expect so much of the movie to be a de-aged Harrison Ford. And I'd say the whole first act is that, which shocked me. I thought it was going to be like a little, maybe a few minutes of it, and I loved that whole part of the movie. I thought it was some of the best de-aging I had ever seen. What they didn't do, which was interesting, is do anything with his voice. It was still young Harrison Ford with like 81-year-old voice, which was a little weird. But
they could
nonetheless,
make it younger too if they wanted to. Don't they have stuff?
They could have if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But maybe that would have. I don't know why they didn't. But anyways, watching that younger version of that, I loved that whole train sequence and everything that was going on. I felt like a 7-year-old again. Like we were watching not Raiders of the Lost Ark, but like another multiverse movie of Harrison Ford. Like maybe this came out in 1982.
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly how I felt too about the whole sequence.
I felt like a kid watching Harrison Ford making a sequel that never came out a few years later. And like, this was the lost movie from 1982 or 1983, or I dare say a better something that instead of Temple of Doom, this movie came out, you know. I want a 2-hour version of this. This de-aging I thought was so good. I want a 2-hour version of Harrison Ford from 1983 of this. I could have watched that. Yeah. I thought this was so good.
I wanted to like that scene, but the CGI and the way it was shot and the fact that it wasn't Spielberg, I was just like, nah.
Didn't bother me at all.
Didn't work for me. Yeah. I liked it just fine, but
I was completely wrapped up in it. My heart was fluttering. I was there, and it might have just been my circumstance sitting there in the theater next to my dad. I felt like giddy, like,
dude, it wasn't just you. That's exactly how I felt though. Like I was telling Carlos that, like, Carlos is sitting next to me, and I was like, I feel like I'm back in I totally felt like I was back in 1980 whatever now, watching another movie of the rated, like Indiana Jones. And
I think it's supposed to be like 1944 or something like that. It's supposed to be like 8 years late or something like that. He's supposed to be in his mid 40s, so it could have been. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But and I know not everybody agrees with that. There's some people, I've read some things about people complaining about that scene, but I was lost in the emotions of that moment.
Yep.
And I got caught up in it. And it was my personal situation, my personal circumstance. I got choked up. I absolutely got choked up in that. And I do maybe wish that it wasn't so dark, the scenes, because it was
because it was all the CGI. Like if they had gotten a real train and had like a real track and actually it was, but not. I mean, when they land and they look up and at the the whole like layout, there's just a lot of augmentation. They're hiding CGI in the darkness.
And I get it.
I wasn't fooled by it. If I'll take Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, that's where the practical rich thing wants. CGI augmentation, rainy nighttime things, and de-aging is fine for a video game. But there's so many other better video games.
I didn't even know it was CGI.
But I saw that and I'm like, fine, steal my heart. I don't care. I take it because I needed that moment.
No, I
needed that moment. But anyways, I haven't really gotten to the movie, and I don't want to take too much time because I'm just feel like I'm scratching on the surface here. But as far as the film, I thought I really did like this film a lot. I thought this was a much better improvement over Crystal Skull in general. I think this was, not to get into details of the ending, but I thought this was extremely good send-off for Indy's character, much better than Crystal Skull. In hindsight, I don't like the way Crystal Skull ended his character, and I think this had so much great to say about his character at the end, and we'll get to that, because I felt like I had a couple endings for his character where I was like, oh, this is where they're going with it. And then like, whoa. And then they kind of pulled the rug out. And then it even like gave me another ending that I thought was even more brilliant. So it did a couple things that I just thought were very well done. There's a lot I want to say about the third act in this that I'm still mixed on what they did and what they could have done that I think would have been so much better. But overall, I want to say that this movie, despite what critics and some people are complaining about, I thought was very, very good. I had a great time with this. I loved Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this. I thought she was perfect for this movie as a sidekick to Harrison Ford in this. I liked her in Fleabag a lot. That was one of my favorite shows from a couple of years ago. Although I didn't know if I really liked her arc in this, but I like her as an actress a lot. I thought this other side character, there was a boy in this, I think Teddy. I felt like I didn't think maybe his character was fully fleshed out. And some of I'm blanking on the bad guy in this, who I love as an actor.
Mads Mikkelsen.
I like him in everything.
Yeah.
He was good, but him and his henchmen, I feel like there's another actor that is great in things. And
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
And he is great in stuff. And his name is, I can't find it now. But I don't think they really gave great service to some of the supporting cast in this. Antonio Banderas is one of my all-time favorite actors. They completely do a disservice to his character. He is introduced in this movie, and it's like, oh, Indy, my favorite pal from going back so many years. Like, well, where's the history with you guys? And
I thought Salo would come on the adventure as opposed to just talk to him. He's like, go for it, Indy. See you later. Back to the library.
It's a walk-on cameo. Yeah. And that didn't really bother me that much, but it was kind of like just show up and show your face. Oh, Boyd Holbrook is the character I'm thinking of, who has such a great face, and I really liked him. But there's some of the Mad Mikkelsen's henchmen I just felt like were just kind of like not fleshed out, and not that they should have been, but there was more to this movie I think that they could have done with some of these side characters that I would have loved to have explored. But overall, I think this is a great improvement over Crystal Skull, is how I'll leave it for now until we get to spoilers. And last thing I'll say, the score. I thought it was okay. It was nice. It was nice to get John Williams back in there. Serviceable. Didn't really do anything new.
It was fine. It's John Williams is always amazing. Yeah. But he was kind of playing greatest hits.
Yeah.
And like on the train, he'd like awkwardly weave in some like Last Crusade bits, and it was just like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Nostalgia clickbait, CGI, dark, rainy, muddy train. Guess that fools some people, but I like practical stuff.
Yeah. Why don't we get to spoilers now? We're in spoilers for Dial of Destiny.
Ha ha, Shia LaBeouf died.
I know. Aren't we kind of? Oh, is anybody kind of sad? Like we never got that Shia LaBeouf like.
Yeah, no, I didn't dislike him. I just liked how the filmmakers like viciously got rid of him. They're like, "Oh yeah, you want to come back? We killed you in Vietnam. No money for you." You know.
I know
money
that
from other projects, so I'm sure he's
heartless.
Fine,
heartless.
Yeah, it was rough, but it was
not even a picture. Not even a picture in the frame somewhere, right?
And it's sad because he's such a major character in Crystal Skull, so that he gets killed off screen in the war. It's just like, oh
yeah.
It just, I thought he was decent I didn't hate him in Crystal Skull. I felt a little bad he wasn't there, but I just was it was such a dismissive way to get rid of him. I was like, oh, that's sad, you know.
But I think it served the character well. I like how they used it to explain why Miriam and Indy are separated, and so they used it properly. I would say, yeah. So what do we want to talk about in spoilers here? Because I think there's a lot I want to say about the third act, but anything about the adventure here or the characters? How would we like to start this here? I have a lot to say about the third act, but I don't know.
I thought that, when he was transported back in time, that was interesting. It ended so abruptly, but I thought it was kind of a decent part of the third act. A lot of the story I thought was, aside from that in the third act, I can't think of many major spoilers because most of the movie is kind of like sleek, decently well executed chases. They run to this place, they run to this place, they almost get caught, they run to another place. It's just like the template was.
There really isn't much to spoil it. I mean, except for you've already said it before the spoilers that he was de-aged. So I thought I didn't talk about it because I thought that would have been a spoiler, but
it's all over the trailers. The
de-aging did look really good. Like I can't deny that. It was funny when he talked and his voice didn't quite line up. But I will say the de-aging has come a long way. I remember being impressed when Moff Tarkin was back in Rogue One. Or they brought back the dead actor and at the time it looked amazing. Now I look at it and it looks like a video game face. So we're getting, we acclimate as the technology gets better and better. What you remember looking amazing, you look back and you go, ooh, that wasn't as great as I remembered it, because it keeps improving.
Yeah, but this de-aging looks great. So
it did look really good. Yeah, it really did. Yeah.
I first thought it's is that from the beginning? I was thinking how did they shoot that back then and now?
And I do understand that why you guys like the train sequence, and I wanted to too. I just was happy when I don't like to side with critics and be negative. I was just happy to read articles out there where people felt the way that I felt, because I was like, yeah, that's unfortunately how I felt. But I always want to be transported and engaged. I mean, I love movies in general. I have Ebola. I'm sorry. Just kidding. I don't.
So I mentioned things. There's a couple I thought that I was saying before. There's characters I think really weren't fleshed out. Some of them I'm really still bothered by Antonio Banderas. He is a star, and first of all I didn't recognize him. Number one.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah,
and it took me I think 2 scenes to realize that. Oh, that's
finally realized it. Movie. Oh, yeah.
The minute he opened his mouth, I knew it was him.
And then he's dispatched so unceremoniously in this movie too. I wish that he would have kind of come along on the adventure some more. And I love Antonio Banderas since Desperado and even before that, and some of his earlier work, and I was just so sad that he's just such an afterthought in this movie. How did he get in this movie? Does he go back with like James Mangold in some movies? I don't know. What is he doing in this movie?
There was one. You talk about I totally agree with you. And you talk about the third act. The scene when and I don't remember the exact plot reason, but they walk up a hill and they go into that cave, and there's the whole cavernous scene with the bugs and the. That I thought was really good, and I almost wanted that to be fleshed out a bit more. I felt that the movie kind of jumps from set piece to set piece, and I was like, instead of 5 okay set pieces, I would have loved 2 or 3 amazing ones. And it's funny, talking about being sensitive to shots. When they're approaching that cave, there's a shot where they're walking up towards it, and the camera's like moving up over their shoulders, and you see like cliff walls. You can tell that they're really outside somewhere, and you can feel the lack of manipulation in that shot. For a second, I felt like I was transported to 1989. It looked like that, and then it felt like that, and then it was like, and now to a set. I don't know. I feel I'm very sensitive towards.
I didn't notice any of that. I was just watching the movie.
Stuff like that. Even if you're put it this way, even if you're not a fan of, and I'll just go, this is a random comment, go right back on track. But even if you're not a fan of Temple of Doom, there's a shot in that movie where Indy comes around a cavernous corner and it like just starts following him, and it's over his shoulder, and in a single wide shot, the camera reveals the entirety of the Temple of Doom below him. Yes. And you're like, whoa, it's like a Spielberg version of like Welcome to Hell. And I feel this like chilling, like, and Mangold's framing is good, but it's more like, and a close up and an over the shoulder and a cut. Like it was the filmmaking was more standard.
Yeah, it's more textbook. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not bad though. I'm not like, I didn't hate it. I just didn't feel that like, I really wanted to feel how you guys felt with that train sequence. I wish I did, you know?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the third act. Now, there's some clever things that happen in this, but what happens? So the dial of destiny. So Mads Mikkelsen gets the two pieces, and that's what's going on here. There's this big chase, and they're all over the place trying to get these two pieces, which I thought was relatively well done, how they're on this adventure to get these two pieces. But the goal is, I think, was to go back to 1940 something to to kill Hitler?
He wanted to kill Hitler and take over for Hitler or something.
So the goal was to go back there, but they end up to 200 BC. Now, what's interesting is we end up there. Now, at first I was like, well, that's interesting. I would have liked, this is my personal feeling, and I don't know what you guys think, but for some reason, I would have liked it if there was more, since this is the final Harrison Ford Indiana Jones movie. I would have liked it if there was somehow more of a connection to the 1980s movies. Like if this was somehow they were going back to acquire the Ark of the Covenant or something like that. What if this all came back to the beginning of our adventures with Indiana Jones?
Yes, I know.
And instead we're on a completely different adventure. Like if this was somehow we brought it back to the beginning, since we're I don't know. I'd always thought that kind of bothered me a little bit that there was an opportunity to bring this full circle, the whole Indiana Jones story. That would have been, I think, an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
Instead, there were this other whole thing about going, and we end up in 200 BC, which was still, I thought, pretty fascinating. And I love what happens where they're flying these planes, and at first you think you're in like 1944, 1945 Germany. You see the boats underneath them and like, wow, they're there. Then all of a sudden you realize, no, those are not 19 ships from 1944. Excuse me. And then the spear comes in through that plane. I thought it was fantastic how those scenes are orchestrated. So I don't know. I had a great time the way this whole thing happens, and then the second plane follows them through. Teddy can pilot a plane. Is that what happens? The little boy?
Yeah.
I don't know. when did he learn to fly?
One thing I was not feeling was I know it's the longest Indiana Jones. It seemed to be pretty breezy to me. Like
I was long.
I was on board for the ride. Like, I mean, because it's like 15. It's two.
You thought it was still long.
No, it's like 2
Last
hours.
Crusade's the same, I think, isn't it?
This is 2 hours 25 minutes. Last Crusade is 126 minutes in total, including credits. But
Okay.
I didn't realize it was the end, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, it's the end." I felt like we crashed into the ending, and I was like, "Oh, I thought we were at the halfway point." I mean, it seemed to kind of just go by to me.
What did you guys think about the end? I'd like to get your opinions, like especially the part where they're crashing in 200 BC, and you know what happens here. Like Indy he wants to stay. And did you think that was going to be the end of this movie?
I did. I thought he was going to stay back there, and that was going to be the end. And then when she punched him and brought him back, I was so fine with it, but it just seemed kind of like we're in the middle of this big thing going on, and then you get punched out of it, and it's like, okay, back to his New York apartment. Great, But I understand that it was the personal arc. Now he has people that care about him, and now he has like sort of a family unit again. So it was like a good ending for him, the character.
But if he stayed there with Archimedes, he would have changed the whole course of our world.
There's that. Yeah. Would he have even survived? I mean, he was shot.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He wouldn't have done well. There's no like modern medicine. Like it would have been rough.
He would have probably died within hours.
But he wanted to die. He wanted to stay there because he wanted to die.
He wanted to die there with who was it? Archimedes or what was it?
Archimedes.
Archimedes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Archimedes was the guy in my mathematics textbook in my country.
Yeah. So. I was when that was happening there. I was like, my jaw dropped. Like, this is perfect. This is how Indy is going to become one with history. This is how the character ends, and he become. This. It made so much sense to me. Yep. And then I was like, I thought the filmmakers were geniuses when that was about to happen. I did not see the punch coming.
I didn't either.
I did not see that coming. It was like how, because when Indy makes up his mind and like he was going to do like, this is it. And it made so much sense.
Yeah.
And like, as much as I had some gripes with the movie and like I didn't like the fact that like we had this convoluted story, like over in 200 BC, like what is going on here? Why are we here of all places? Yeah. Like, sure.
You went back there because remember the device?
I know.
It's Archimedes who created the device. And
I get it. Yeah. It like, as much as I had problems with the whole movie, the last 10 minutes of the movie made it all worth it. That's why. It was like, oh, I get it now. We all went through this weird story to get to this moment here. And the movie went from like, seriously, like probably a B to like A- for me in the last 10 minutes of the movie because of the emotional impact of it. It was at an A in the beginning. And I think kind of like the weird stuff that was going in the beginning, like, it was kind of like generic globetrotting, a lot of the stuff in the middle with like Mads Mikkelsen and like, oh, we're going after this device to get another device, to get another device. We have to go here. We have to go there. There was a lot of that going on. And then when we got to the third act where we're going through time, it was like, whoa, we are in uncharted territory. We're in an Indiana Jones movie now where I don't know what's going to happen. When we go back 200 BC, I'm like, this is insane. And this is like the Holy Grail. This is Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark of the Covenant is open. We are now in absolute wackyville here. This is why I come to these movies.
I like the unpredictability of it. It was really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I love about these movies. I come to these kind of movies because this was like something I never expected this movie to go. Never expected to be here in this movie. And I was so thankful that they went here because this movie could have done so many cop-out generic things. I think like Crystal Skull kind of did a generic thing at the end, a very ho-hum thing at the end of that movie. This movie went someplace I never expected it would. And that's why I rate this movie very high because of what it did at the end. It had the emotional gut punch at the end, and then it gave me another emotional gut punch at the end when at the very end we are back in New York and we have that he is reunited with Marion where they have that dance at the end, and he is where he needs to be, to live out the rest of his life. So I teared up at the end. I really did, twice in two places, because I felt like at first, this is where he needs to be. Oh no, this is where he needs to be. So it was like, and then it really, I got chills watching the whole thing. And then when it ended, I realized this is it. This is where Indy is now. And I walked out of the theater knowing that this is where I will leave Indiana Jones, and that's okay.
Yep.
And I was really happy with that. I don't feel like it did not feel cheeseball. It felt genuine and authentic. And I felt so good having this experience with my dad.
That was great. Yeah, that's great.
I know, I'm sorry. I feel like I just kind of hogged this whole conversation. I'm sorry.
No, how would you rank the Indiana Jones?
Okay,
films?
so we'll get to that. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will always rank Raiders of the Lost Ark first because it is that seminal moment. Watching that, I think that is a near perfect movie.
Yeah.
Maybe top 10 movies of all time.
Yeah.
My second favorite is The Last Crusade. I think it's, you know what's funny? When I first saw that movie, Sam, I didn't love it. I thought it was just like, oh, it's just a 2-hour chase movie. It's just like we're on a Zeppelin, we're on a boat, we're on a motorcycle, we're on a tank. It's like, when does this movie take a breath? And I think that bothered me at first. And now I love it because of the energy that movie has. And it's a kind of a goofy movie too. It's a comedy. But now I think I really, really dig it. You know what my third favorite of the series is?
Dial of Destiny? Yeah.
This one. This is my third favorite Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny. I think it is. And I don't know if many people would say that, but I really, really enjoyed it a lot. My fourth, all right. My fourth, okay. I was going to say something different in the beginning of this, but I am going to change it again. Just because of where I was when I watched it. I think my fourth still has to be Temple of Doom.
Oh, thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God you didn't put that above Crystal Skull, man. I would not have come back to this podcast.
I thought about
it.
Because when I was mentioning Crystal Skull before, I was thinking about there's parts of Crystal Skull that I think work very, very well. But ultimately, when I think about it, it leaves me just feeling kind of like dissatisfied as a whole.
Thank you for that.
This Crystal Skull is a lesser movie because of what Dial of Destiny is.
I thank you so much for that seed of joy of not putting. You just made my week. That's the only positive moment that I'm going to have in this whole week. Like to the audience out there, like it has not been a good week, but this week is not the norm. Like it'll get better, and I know I've been like just way too like negative, but thank you for the joy of not putting it last, because it's just that would have been one more like painful like stabbed in my chest, you know.
Okay, for you, Sam.
For me, I would say. Oh no, keep going. Yeah.
And Crystal Skull last.
I would say for me, it's Raiders. 1, 2 would be Last Crusade. 3 would be Temple of Doom. 4 is Dial of Destiny, and 5th would be Crystal Skull. That's just the way I would just.
I think most people would rank it that way.
Yeah. And it's interesting, this one guy, Rich, I think his name is on the Red Letter Media, he was saying that he made an interesting comment about how he likes some of Temple of Doom's set pieces better than Last Crusade, but he thinks the Last Crusade tank chase is his favorite set piece in all Indy, and that was a pretty great thing. And I'm aware of the problems of Temple of Doom. I think the reason I like it is because it's such a weird outlier that it's like the movie's like a fever dream from hell kind of. It's just like that's kind of what I like about it, that it's so different. But it's funny, I've watched that movie so much more than Last Crusade, but I recognize from a critical standpoint, Last Crusade is probably the better film. I think Last Crusade is Spielberg's favorite. Temple of Doom is Spielberg's least favorite. He has openly said he doesn't like it that much. And Raiders, obviously, he says, is one of the few movies that he can watch without being critical of himself as a director. Spielberg can watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and just enjoy it as a movie. And I think that's really cool that
he made it, but he can watch it and be entertained as the audience and not be like, oh, remember that shot at 6 a.m. when the sun was he can just clear his head and enjoy it. So that's how I would rate it, though. And I know that sounds negative I didn't dislike Dial of Destiny. I agree with what you're saying. It's just because those first three to me are so good that both Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, I can't get them into that same. If it was like a mountain slope, they'd be like on a higher slope, and there'd be like a couple of ropes dangling off, and like Crystal Part 4 and 5 would be like climbers that are like, we're getting there.
Ellie, I know you haven't seen all of them, but do you?
No, I have seen them.
You have. Oh, you have. Okay.
I just wanted to see your face.
Oh, okay, good.
Which
you lied to us.
What?
Why?
You guys though, it's so funny because your faces are like, it's just like, chill. I was just kidding.
Where are you at with these?
You know what's even funny? You didn't even hear me when I said I'm just kidding. You didn't hear me.
I just muted you after that. I haven't heard a single thing you said.
All right, so for me, I have to say, obviously, number one is always going to be my favorite one. Just Raiders of the Lost Ark is just there's something about that. Plus, it was made in 1981. I was young. I just enjoyed going to the movies with my friends. We were rowdy. So then, for me, the second one would be Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. No, I'm sorry, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Then Indiana Jones and what do we call the last one? I forget the last one.
Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny is my third. Then the Doom, and then the Skull, because I don't like the Skull at all.
Yeah.
I didn't like that movie.
Our lists are the same, Ellie.
What? We are? Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, so you picked three as the diamond.
Wait, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Ours, we have the same list.
Yeah, I love the Crusade. I think for me, those three top movies are like the three top always, and I can watch them again and again, and I just love the energy, and I love I run to Indiana Jones music, right?
Oh, nice.
I do.
I did not know that.
I do. I put that Indiana Jones dun, 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 and it just give me that energy, and I'm thinking I'm Indiana Jones myself.
Okay.
Nathan, since you saw Crystal Skull recently, wouldn't you agree that there's really awkward expository you know what I mean? How that movie kind of like, it's like chunk dunk 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 like it just is like, well, volumes of talk, and then I don't know. I thought that Dial of Destiny was smoother with the dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, it's more. It gets into the action. It gets into the plot faster, and it's more different. Absolutely.
I actually really like the stuff in New York at the beginning, like that horse chase in the subway.
Yeah,
that was
that
working
was so
for me.
Cool. That was so cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. It was funny too. Like
that was probably the most giddy I felt with that scene. I was like, Indiana Jones movie. I don't know why. It just really worked for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and Indiana Jones started his career at 42, right? 38, 40.
Oh, Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
Oh, he
Younger.
did stuff in the early 70s. He didn't become a big star until.
No, but I'm saying like Hollywood star. He wasn't like big star until like his late.
Raiders. He was 38 when he did Raiders.
Yeah, American Graffiti was what, 73?
Who?
73. Yeah.
So he must have been like in his mid 20s.
He was young in that
26,
one,
27 or so.
When? Which one?
American Graffiti.
American Graffiti. He has a smaller role as Bob Falfa in George Lucas's incredible picture.
Look, I love that man. So yeah.
That is the show this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Western Media Podcast Network. We wish to thank Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the Fallout Shelter. Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. We are truly sorry you cannot join us, but we want to express our gratitude for your company. If you're finding solace in our discussions, we kindly ask that you please subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever portal connects you to our broadcast. There you can find more episodes of this podcast and also on our website, backtotheframerate.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. That's right. I always forget that one. And our handle is Back to the Frame Rate. Your support is the beacon of light that brightens our confined space. Until we emerge from the fallout, stay with us, keep hope alive, and keep those reviews coming. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.